You are in for a treat. Our keynote speaker for today is an author, a thought leader, an innovator, an educator, and a speaker. He works with schools worldwide. He helps educators meet and exceed their potential to improve learner outcomes. And if you've been around Nearpod for a while, that's what we are all about, is improving learner outcomes. He's the founder and CEO of Aspire Change EDU, a collaborative consultancy designed to provide personalized support to all educational systems. Before this, he was a teacher and an award-winning principal at New Milford High School. He has been where you are, and so I think that is super important. Under his leadership, his school became a globally recognized model for innovative practices. Eric oversaw the successful implementation of several sustainable change initiatives that radically transformed the learning culture at his school, while also increasing achievement. He has really emerged as an innovative leader, best-selling author, and a sought-after speaker. And his primary focus is using research and evidence-based practices, and now artificial intelligence to empower learners and educators. And it is my honor and a little bit of fangirl excitement to introduce Eric Scheninger. Welcome, Eric, to Camp Engage 24.
My name is Eric. Julie introduced me, former teacher, former principal, and now I get to work with schools all over the world. But as we think about where, engaging learners, improving our practice, here's the thing, everybody. You create this massive ripple effect, making waves that unleash the potential of all learners. Make no mistake about it, no matter where you are in this world, no matter what you teach, no matter your grade level, you make a difference in the lives of kids. And engagement is a crucial element of that. But what we have to remember is your calling is not to just keep doing things the way they've always been done. It's not to protect the status quo. Your calling is to make a splash. Your calling is to shatter the status quo. Let me show you what that looks and feels like. Are we ready? I just used an engagement strategy, everybody. That was one of my many hooks, going back to the work of Madeline Hunter. Whether you call it a hook, a set, mind-blowing for me was being able to learn how to download Instagram Reels during the pandemic. But I digress. So we're going to talk today about not only engagement, but how we empower learners to think and apply their thinking in meaningful ways. Disruptive thinking is the ability to replace conventional ideas with innovative solutions to authentic problems. And, can technology help with that? Of course it can. But when we think about where we are now, the pandemic was probably the most disruptive event to ever impact education globally. And now we have artificial intelligence. Here's a fact, everyone. Disruption is here to stay. AI is here now, there will be something else. And we need to think about, as educators, how do we future-proof learning for students? And it begins with rethinking normal. So what is normal? I don't know about you. I don't know what normal is anymore. But when we think about normal, if we want to change and grow in a new normal, we have to challenge conventional wisdom. Why is that important? Because we often teach the way we were taught. We lead the way we were led. And we are so impacted by experience, which we'll get to in a little bit. But when I think about rethinking normal, I go back to pre-K. Mrs. McDonald was my pre-K teacher. And in the late 70s, I remember two things about pre-K. Number one, the wooden train. The wooden train was the toy to play with in pre-K, where I grew up, which you're going to see about where I'm from in a little bit. But there were tears, there were bruises. Everybody wanted a piece of that train. But I also remember purple cow milk. Mrs. McDonald got us to rethink normal, not by giving us regular milk, strawberry milk, chocolate milk. She put grape juice in our milk. Don't make those faces, don't make those sounds. If it wasn't good, I wouldn't have remembered it like I do now. Rethinking normal, the Jetsons. Do you know the Jetsons only ran for a season and a half? But do you know the Jetsons not only got us to rethink normal, they accurately predicted our new normal. They predicted everything from 3D printers, smartwatches, tablets, tanning beds. But do you know that the Jetsons actually had a crystal ball? They predicted our new normal both during and after the pandemic. They predicted Zoom meetings, online classes, teledoc visits, FaceTime calls. Very creepy, huh? So when we think about new normal, I want to go back to where I grew up. I am a Jersey guy, and there's no debate. It's Bon Jovi over Springsteen. No offense if you're Springsteen fans, but I spent my summers at the Jersey Shore. And, we get a lot of flack in Jersey about, hey, what exit do you live off the turnpike? And the Jersey Shore and MTV really didn't do us any service. But when you think about normal tan lines, this is what normal tan lines look like when you're walking down the boardwalk or the many boardwalks in New Jersey. But in a new normal, everybody, in a new normal, we have to begin to get ready for new tan lines because of how technology is impacting not just our youth, but adults as well. All right, so that was a joke. But when we think about my point with all this, as we think about this new normal, my point is simple. You don't have to have all the answers, everybody. Do you know what great educators do? They admit when they don't know something and when they need help. I don't know, I need help is a strength in leadership. It's strength in leading our classrooms, our schools, our systems. You don't have to have all the answers, everybody. That is okay. Questions are more important than answers. And if you're still trying to figure things out, don't worry. Everybody is, especially this lawyer in Texas during the pandemic.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to take
we're trying to, can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
Oh, I love that video. So why did I show you that? When we think about this new normal, it's okay not to know, but it's not okay to live by what is often the most dangerous phrase in education. That's the way I've always done it. It's worked for me. And when we think about practice, everybody, it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's not about these monumental changes. What I want you to think about, the key to change are small shifts to practice done consistently. And when we think about education, there are always opportunities to make small shifts to our practice to not only improve as educators, but to improve outcomes for students. So in a new normal, we have to be wary that comfort is often the enemy of progress. We don't want to get too comfortable because in a disruptive world, we also have to rethink learning. And as we think about here, we're going to talk about technology. And I can tell you this, I love using tech in a purposeful way. And I'm really going to outline, I hope for you, some things to consider when you're integrating technology or you're providing support to those who integrate tech. Technology can support and enhance learning in amazing ways, but I would be remiss if I didn't share that technology does have a few limitations.
Emma. Huh? Emma. 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 Emma.
Oh, I love sharing that video, everybody, because here's the thing. With technology, we can't assume that it's going to improve every lesson, every outcome. It's not a silver bullet. But once we have clarity, going back to the work of John Hattie, teacher clarity is 0.75, one of the most highest effect strategies there is. We want to have clarity in terms of, are we using technology in a purposeful way? Correction. It's not what you as adults do with the technology that matters. How are your students using tech in a purposeful way? And in my role, I work with a lot of schools, systems, educators, leaders across the world. And there still is this either hesitance or fear or not seeing the value in what technology can do to help us do what we should already be doing better. And, with this image, technology can improve collaboration, innovate the way we assess. I love self-graded anything as long as it's really, really good questions. Flexible use of time, ownership of learning, instant access. So I like dealing with kind of like non-negotiables. Here is what technology can do to improve teaching and learning. But what we want to make sure of when technology is integrated into lessons, when students are using it to learn, we want to make sure two critical elements are a part of that equation. Number one, thinking. We don't want tech to just have students answer who, what, where, when type questions. We want to get out of DOK1 and really get to higher level thinking. That's what you see here on the vertical axis. On the horizontal axis, it's very important that students are able to use technology to apply their learning in relevant and meaningful ways. Relevance, meaning, authenticity. That's what you want here out of Camp Engage. That's what students want in our classrooms. That's what educators want from professional learning. And it's not about having every task up there in Quad D, high level thinking, high relevance. Quad D is a place you visit once in a while. But when we start unpacking purposeful use of tech, relevance is important. Students should be able to tell you not just what they're learning, they should be able to tell you why are they learning it and how will they use what they're learning outside the classroom. When learning is relevant, it has meaning. That meaning begins to build relationships. It begins to increase intrinsic motivation. I want you to think about how you learn, what makes you tick, what drives your interest. And I'd be willing to wager it has to do a lot with relevance. And relevant learning empowers students to be curious and unlock their potential. When you think about how you learn best, you want that interest. You want to be driven by motivation. You learn for the sake of learning. And when I think about relevance and how it unlocks curiosity, it makes me think of home. I already mentioned that I am born and raised from New Jersey. This is New Jersey, everybody. Don't ask me what exit I lived off the turnpike, nowhere close. I went to a K-8 school of less than 200 students. My high school had less than 400 students. I grew up in a very rural area. And what you're looking at now, this is the view from across the street of my childhood home. And I got to see this every day. And I remember in kindergarten in the late 70s, Mrs. Williams, my kindergarten teacher, asked us, "What do you want to be when you grow up and why?" Now, looking at this picture, you can probably guess what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a farmer. The farmer was so cool. He rode a tractor. He had a dog. He had a straw hat. He got to be outside all the time. I remember that task like it was yesterday. So my parents, they're great. My mom's a retired first grade teacher. My dad, retired first elementary principal, and they like keeping stuff. And I now live outside Houston, Texas. So when my parents would drive down from Jersey, they'd bring bins of stuff. And my dad called it treasure. My wife called it trash. So my dad would show up And he would just leave the bin there because he's not going to take it back to Jersey. And he knows that I'm not going to say, oh, you got to go take it back with you. So, what do we do when our spouses tell us to get rid of something? Yeah, we put it in the garage. That's what I did. That bin sat in the garage for months. Then my wife is like, get rid of it. So I put it someplace she would never go, the attic above my garage. Probably not the best idea because it's hot in Texas. I went up into the attic and went into one of the bins to look for something for this presentation. And you know what I found? I found the essay that I wrote in Mrs. Williams' kindergarten class. That is definitely my artwork. That is definitely my mom's transcription. When we think about engagement, everybody, what do we remember? We remember as students ourselves, those relevant, meaningful experiences. We remember the teachers that built those relationships. I got it right. Making $20 an hour in the 70s, that was awesome. Working the afternoon, not so much. You know what I did not find in that bin? Report cards or transcripts. My parents kept our most prized possessions, and those possessions were the teachers that not only engaged us, but authentically authentically immersed us in relevant experiences. You know what else I found in that bin? My kindergarten class picture. And here's a fun fact. I am an identical twin. Here's a not so fun fact. No one could tell us apart. We went to a K-8 school. So my mom, in her infinite wisdom, had belts made. My brother had B's for Bob, and mine had E's for Eric. I had to wear the belt that had E's all over it through 5th grade. Oh my goodness. The 8th graders had a field day with us. Oh, and on the weekends, out in public, you knew who I was because my mom made me wear the hat that said Eric on it. Ugh, thanks, Mom. Relevance, not new. By the way, everybody, if you're looking for new things from me, I'm sorry, I'm going to disappoint you. Actually, none of the stuff that we hear is new. Technology is new, yes. Research on the brain is new. But when we think about our practice and we think about research-based strategies, not new, everybody. We want to engage our students in relevant learning, but we also want to challenge them to think. This is critical when it comes to using technology in the classroom. I visit thousands of classrooms all over the world, and I often see when technology is involved, who, what, where, when type questions. That is not the role of technology, everybody. The role of technology is to support and enhance higher level learning for our students. So when you're using tools, make sure you're scaffolding your questions and tasks. Don't just differentiate content, differentiate process and product. Use writing and work as a measure of thinking, and create challenging problems for students to solve. So when we think about technology, we want to make sure that it's used in a purposeful way, such as in the top left. That's a little 3rd grader who's solving a math problem on a whiteboard. She will then go on and create a video explaining how she solved the problem. The teacher will then use relevant data from an adaptive tool and not watch every video. She will watch the videos of the students that need the most support. In the middle, you see a middle schooler solving a problem on a dry erase desk. That student will then go and respond to that problem. When kids are using tech, we want to get them to think. You see closed reading strategies on the bottom right. And on the top right, one of my favorite questions, provide historical evidence to support or disagree with Mongol rule. Overall, for the regions impacted, do we see an improvement or decrease in the quality of life for the citizens of the empire? Select your point of view, support your statement. You're looking at higher level thinking, authentic engagement. But what you really want to focus on in terms of purposeful use are 2 key questions. Number 1, how are your students using technology to learn in ways they couldn't without it? How are your students using tech to learn in ways they couldn't without it? And number 2, how does your use of technology as an educator represent a fundamental improvement over what you did in the past without it. For all the elementary, primary folks, this is one of my many anchor charts. As a former high school science teacher and principal, I didn't know what an anchor chart was. It's critical for us to anchor our practices to ensure that technology is not just being substituted for low-level tasks. We want it to really be used in a purposeful way. So I did forget to tell you, I will give you all my slides. There'll be a QR code at the end, so make sure you grab that at the end and I will send you the slides. Here's the thing, everybody. Tech, no tech, everything I just went over and more is all based on peer-reviewed research. If you want to look at the research, go ahead and scan that code. Too much information, students will tap out. Tapping into feelings. Why have I showed you 3 videos to get you to laugh? Because what we know about the brain is the brain releases dopamine during emotionally charged events, making it easier to remember. Embracing mistakes, letting students teach themselves. Why did I tell you the story of Mrs. McDonald, the purple cow milk? That was novelty. Novelty helps the brain remember. Active application. I just showed you on one slide. Numerous students at different grade levels actively applying their learning in purposeful ways. You also saw collaboration. Technology allows every student to collaborate when they're sharing out on the same task. So, value, importance. Now, I'm going to prove yet again that none of this is new. In 7th and 8th grade, Mr. South was my teacher. And in kindergarten, everyone knew who Mr. South was. He wore flannel shirts, jeans, socks, no socks, belts, no belt. He was walking, talking novelty. And in 8th grade, he asked us, how will you colonize Mars? So he put us in teams. And every team had to come up with an innovative idea that would help the class colonize Mars. Now, we had to do intensive research. We couldn't use the textbook because he didn't believe in the textbook. But we did do research. We did research with an archaic device called the encyclopedia, which was totally irrelevant the second it was published. And through the research, my partner and I we found something called the mass driver. And the mass driver was a hypothetical device that would be on the surface of the moon that would propel resources from the moon to Mars. Think of it as a giant space cannon. He then had us make working prototypes. We built a prototype that shot toothpicks. Every group had to create a working prototype. Then you can't do this anymore. He had to sign permission slips, go to his creepy garage in the middle of nowhere, and build larger prototypes. My partner and I built one that actually shot tennis balls. We then had to write a research paper with citations explaining why we chose our device, how it would help the class colonize Mars, and what went into its design. That research paper had a 4-point, not an arbitrary scoring guide, a 4-point well-designed rubric. He then had us paper mache the entire class, made it look like the surface of Mars, and brought our parents in and showed them what we actually learned. Now let me walk you through everything that he did. Purposeful use of technology. We had to build working prototypes using tech. Sound assessment, a 4-point rubric. Personalization. He had us choose our product, but link it back to the learning goals. He also utilized the cooperative learning jigsaw method, a sound pedagogical approach. We need to get past the fact that this stuff is new. It's not new, everybody. What might be new is how you make those small shifts to practice using technology in a purposeful way to help rethink learning in your classroom, in your school, across your system. Now, we talked about rethinking normal, rethinking learning. Well, now we also have to rethink the learner. And as we think about students, the environment in which they're learning is so different than ours. And I want to talk about experiences. Experiences shape our learning. So I'm going to take you a walk down memory lane. I'm going to show you an experience, two different versions of the same experience. And the first one happened 4 years before the pandemic. And I want you to think, A, what did this person learn during the experience? And B, did you share a similar experience when you were teaching or facilitating meetings during the pandemic? All right, first experience coming up right now.
No, I would argue that this is a triumph of democracy. Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. North Korea, South Korea.
Oh, it's a classic now. I remember when that first video came out, there was like 1,000 hits on it. Now millions. And he probably learned a valuable lesson. That experience taught him he needs to lock the door. His wife was a savior, by the way. So maybe you had a similar experience during the pandemic and you learned from it. That experience helped you develop an innovative idea. And maybe that innovative idea was getting your little furry friends under control. Okay, this is fictitious. No animals were hurt in this image. But when we think about experience, everybody, experiences, when we think about humans, sometimes we need more dramatic experiences. Sometimes lessons are learned, not the first time, not the second time, but maybe the third or fourth. Or maybe it's an experience that truly gets us to reflect deeply on our practice. Here is experience number 2.
Goodbye. All right. Talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
See you guys.
Tony!
Can you hear us?
Tony!
Oh no. Don't. Jen, call him. Oh my gosh. Hold on, I'm gonna text a couple pictures of that. Oh. Oh. Oh boy.
What's up?
Tony, I can see you when you're
We can all see you.
So, I get it. Funny videos, Eric, but I don't understand the point. I used humor to set up a very important question. What type of experiences are you providing your students in your classroom, school, district, or organization? Experience matters, everybody. And when we think about engagement, some students are not engaged because they are consistently asked to climb that same tree. They are consistently forced to do the same thing at the same time, the same way. I am not saying that you should not do whole group or direct instruction. I already showed the research, brevity. And when you look at John Hattie's work, high effect size, direct instruction is still like a 0.6. But that can't be all that's done. And we can't just throw technology in the mix and say, oh yeah, we're engaging our students. And the point I'm getting at with experience is, many of us went through an impersonal experience. What was on the test? What's in the curriculum? What we needed for graduation, promotion. And again, what? I don't know about you. I know my own 2 children. they're older now, but they never came home and said, Mom, Dad, we had an amazing day today exploring the curriculum. When they do come home and they talk about school, they talk about teachers like you, educators like you, who made learning relevant, meaningful, and made a personal connection. Personalization is moving from the what to who to emphasize ownership of learning. We have to remember who we serve, and students have different learning preferences. Notice I did not say learning styles. That has been debunked. But when we think about who, can they articulate why I'm learning this, how I will use it, what tells me if I'm successful? Personalization also applies to every single one of you on this Zoom right now. Why do you do things the way you do them? How might you do it better? And what tells you if you are successful? Personalization is all students getting what they need, when and where they need it to learn. Let me tell you what personalization is not. It's not about putting all kids on a device, having them use an adaptive learning tool where there is no talking, no discourse, no relationship building. Everybody, it comes back down to that purposeful use. And we want to make sure that we are maximizing the time that we have with students. That's what personalization is all about, maximizing the time that we have with students. I want you to challenge the notion of best practice. If there was a best practice, we'd all be doing it with a high degree of fidelity and getting amazing results. There are effective practices, everybody. There isn't a one-size-fits-all practice that's going to radically improve everything we do, but there are effective practices. And when it comes to personalization, voice, choice, path, pace, place, as educators, you need to determine what is the most effective way to personalize. You can personalize instruction through student voice using individual whiteboards, dry erase desks, or technology for students to share out. Choice doesn't have to be a choice board. Maybe choosing how to demonstrate understanding. And that's one aspect that I love about Nearpod is students can choose to draw their response, bring in images, give elaborate text examples. If learning is the goal, students should be able to work at their own pace within reason. Place can be virtual, like today, tomorrow. Place can be outside. Place can be flexible seating combined with flexible pedagogy. And when we think about learning, if we put all students on that same trajectory, some will not succeed because that's not how they learn. And that's why path matters. I love getting into classrooms and schools, providing feedback to leaders, teachers, educators, and then watching them grow their practice. I had to cherry pick a few examples today because I have thousands. But what do all these examples have in common? Number one, teachers and administrators who grew their practice, who acted on feedback, in this case from me. On the left, those are two examples of rotational models. The top one is third grade. Students are grouped using adaptive tool data. There's small instructional videos that the students can watch at any time. Timer at the bottom to not only work at their own pace, but self-regulate. And that teacher came up with a snazzy acronym, meet with teacher, at my seat, technology, hands-on. Below that is a rotational model at the high school level, where that teacher set up 4 different tasks. Students are rotating through, and that teacher at the high school level is using benchmark data and pulling out small groups of students for targeted instruction. What did I just reference with rotational models? Tier 2 in RTI. And you can see technology is not all of the rotations. It's strategically placed in one of them. Bottom middle, that's a scaffolded choice board in 4th grade. Fires are more difficult. Timer for pacing. On the top right corner, that is a choice board at the high school level. Where you look at those tasks, they are all high-level thinking and relevance. Behind the choice boards, the teacher is using data that comes from tech to provide one-on-one support for students. top middle, flipped classroom at a high school in Mississippi. All of the hyperlinks, videos, notes, integration of tools, small videos from the teacher. And on the bottom right, that is a playlist where students choose the order of their tasks. They do them all. And in this example, once they're done, they find their name, they color it in, but the teacher is using data and providing one-on-one support. I just proved to everybody there is not one right or best way to personalize. And artificial intelligence can really be used to help save time and personalize learning. But let me be very clear about AI. AI is not going to facilitate your lesson. AI is not going to build a relationship. AI is not a silver bullet. You need to identify where are those gaps or opportunities in your practice. You need to figure that out first. And then you can use a wealth of tools to help you maximize time. For example, I worked with a grade 4 teacher a couple weeks ago, and he's like, Eric, I want to help students learn long division. Now, remember, everybody, I was a high school teacher. So I'm like, all right, give me the standard. And I go, what do you like to do? He's like, I like to sing. So I went on Google Gemini, free AI tool, and I said, create a song for 4th graders to help learn, understand long division based on this standard. In seconds, I got a rap song that I then rapped to the teacher, and that teacher's like, this is awesome. But the point here, everybody, yeah, he identified where he needed a little bit of help to help students remember. So as we get to the end, hopefully you laughed. Hopefully I've gotten you to think a little bit. And here's the thing, everybody, I know you're doing great work. It's not about me saying you're not doing this. Hopefully what I've said has been some validation. But my hope is that you leave with more questions and answers, because I don't care how many books someone's written, how many TED Talks they've given, who their name is. They don't have all the answers. I sure don't. I want you to leave with questions to grow your practice, to find your personal path, to become the best iteration of yourself to support students. But we have to come back to our mindset. Often, the way we view things impacts how we do things. Our lens can skew reality.
And just like that, all I breathe, all...
Yep, that video got me. Oops, oh, I did that a little too quick. I think I have it all memorized. But everybody there, I'm looking right now, there's over 1,000 of you from across the world in this session. That is awesome. Thank you for being here. So I reached out to a friend because I wanted to tell all of you that you were number one. And I didn't want to come from me. I wanted to come from someone of significance. So I reached out to Prince William, and Prince William came here to tell you all that you are number one. There's reality, everybody. Our lens can skew reality. Our mindset can hold us back. I use these slides to get you to think about what is the lens you use. Do you focus too much on things you cannot control? Or do you put your time and energy on what you can control? We need to focus more on what you can control. You can control how you use the time with your students. That's one thing you can control. If you're a leader, you can control whether you make the time to provide your teachers timely, relevant, specific, practical feedback. We need to focus more on the what ifs instead of the yeah buts. The what ifs, the yeah buts, everybody, hold us back. Yeah, but not enough time. You can control the time you have with kids. Outside of that, there's not much more you can control. Now, Julie, I see you came back on. Am I running out of time? Because, okay, good. You stay right there. So, my last story, everybody, this is Mr. Wynn. Mr. Wynn was my kindergarten through 8th grade art teacher. I had Mr. Wynn for 9 years. And when I connected with Mr. Wynn on Facebook a few years ago, his paintings reminded me of home. This is the Amish area of Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, not too far from where I grew up in New Jersey. And when I looked at his artwork, I always had such fond memories of his class, but I didn't believe I was a very good artist. So when I was a principal, I had a ceramic bowl, and that bowl sat on my desk. It was perfect to me, perfect color, perfect symmetry. And when I left the principalship 10 years ago, I lost the bowl. I've been looking for that bowl for 10 years. So remember when I told you that I went up into the attic and I went through my dad's treasure chest? Well, I was looking not for Mrs. Williams' essay. I was looking for anything in Mr. Wynn's class in ceramics. Almost everything in that bin that my parents kept were artifacts from art. By the way, I now have my fully functional ceramic snail on my desk. Here's what I learned about Mr. Wynn. He challenged us through different mediums. He had us use technology, especially with woodwork, the kiln. He believed in relationships. He did not believe in grades. I got S+ on everything. But he was just an amazing person. I became a science teacher because of Mr. South, the Mars guy. I became the person I am today because of Mr. Wynn. My whole point today, everybody, when you think about engagement, it's about the experiences that you create for your kids. The stories I told, I hope resonate with you because you have those same stories. But more importantly, you're creating those stories for your students across the world. Whether you're a librarian, a teacher, a coach, a bus driver, an administrator, every interaction you have with students is the opportunity to make a difference. Don't miss out on those opportunities.
Total $68.
I'm sorry. Can I return the cake, please?
Sure, yes.
I want the cake, please. I won't ask for anything else.
Next time, okay? When we can afford it?
Last time you said that. The cake is not tasty. Let's buy something else, okay?
They don't want that?
Yes.
I'll take it then.
Okay.
Hey. Hello, this is for you.
No, we cannot accept it.
Would you please?
There's no reason for you to buy the cake for us.
Well, when I was 7, my mother wanted to buy me a cake.
Mommy, I want this one.
But at the counter, we didn't have enough.
Can we get something else? It's my birthday today. Can I choose my own cake, please?
I'm sorry.
Then, there's this man. I've never met him before.
Here, have the cake. Happy birthday.
I didn't know his name. I never got a chance to say thank you. But I've never forgotten him.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Can I have your contact number? Let me repay you when we have the money.
Promise me something, okay? Someday, when you're able to help somebody, you will do it?
I chose this cake for your birthday.
Wow, this is my favorite. Thank you.
Let's go and put some candles.
Oh, careful. Anya, you shouldn't have spent the money.
Actually, I came and paid for it.
Give me this note.
Please write down your address. I'll bring the money back to you later.
A simple act of caring creates an endless ripple.
And now you all know my true intentions for today was just to say thank you. Thank you for your dedication. Thanks for the long nights. Thanks for caring. Thanks for showing up for kids. Thank you for making a difference. Your dedication to students creates never-ending waves that positively impact them now and in the future. And hopefully you saw my instructional design. My second slide was the ripples you create makes waves. Do you know how hard it was to find a video that had ripples in it? But I also wanted to come back to the waves. And I will tell you this, know that the waves you make have the power to disrupt thinking and the status quo. You are the wave. The raft with the person, that's the status quo. All right. So everybody, just some things to think about going forward. I did promise you, if you want the slides, there is the link to the QR code at the bottom. Again, you just put your email in there. I'll send it along. And just give me some time because I might try to jump on an earlier flight. I'm at the airport, by the way. I love that I got this little Camp Engage behind me because you can't tell. I got this nice little private room here at the airport. If you're interested in the book, that's there too. I also put the Pinterest board link, all kinds of stuff. I'll put it in the chat one more time before I leave to get that. But I'm gonna just leave that up quick again. I'll turn it over to Julie, and then I'll be on my way. But thanks again, everybody.